Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of June 28, 2021. In terms of the stock market direction, I think is going to be a down week overall. I think there's a slight chance, about 55% chance, that market, and by that I mean Dow Jones and Nasdaq, will go up on Monday. However, I think most of the week, especially Thursday and Friday, are going to be down days. And in fact, I think this trend will continue into early next week for Monday and Tuesday. Of course, Monday, July 5th, the following week, will be a holiday for the US, and I believe stock market will be closed. That said, I think early next week, a Monday and potentially Tuesday, for markets that are open, those markets will see down days. So in terms of the overall influences, I think, and I mentioned that already in my annual preview, annual predictions for the 2021, as well as in basically ongoing predictions that I've been making for weeks now, that this particular time of the year, meaning end of June and early July, is going to be one of the more critical periods this entire year. And that is because we have this ongoing, slowly unfolding Saturn square Uranus transit that is going to be kind of intensified as both the planets are coming closer to form a more tight square, but also it will be intensified by transiting Mars, forming a T-square with Uranus and Saturn. And this particular transit typically coincides with a variety of difficult, tense circumstances, and this could be something along the lines of flash crashes in the stock market, volatility in the currencies, especially cryptocurrencies, which I believe may be followed by some regulations and restrictions to obviously decrease this volatility. And another area that may be affected is perhaps communication and transportation areas, including anything that's involved sort of high tech, such as airlines or airplanes, I should say, electric cars, and anything that involves transportation of either oil, gas, chemicals, or via water, like maritime transportation. And another area that may be affected, again, by either flash crashes or by strong volatility is anything to do with metals. And again, this could be steel, iron, or any other metals, really, where there may be concerns about either shortages or some supply chain disruptions, or some logistics breaking down, where how things were perhaps mined or how things were delivered. And again, there's some volatility where things are not available, like this flow of, say availability of certain kind of metals, or flow of supply, chain of some parts for, say, airplanes. Or perhaps, again, the stability of, the expectation of that some currencies value will be stable, the flow, this sort of more or less stable kind of flow of something may be disrupted quite suddenly. Again, this could be some disaster happening, like an industrial scale disaster, or some sudden, again, fluctuation in the value, followed by restrictions like some sort of embargo perhaps, or just, again, the governmental regulations that prevent things from kind of continuing as they have been in the past, and that causes the sudden shock, sudden disaster. It could also be things along the lines of major earthquakes, turbulent weather, and resulting like something like a tornado, lightning storm, etc., and something that may disrupt power supply. So obviously major storms may disrupt, may cause power outages, and that may lead to, transportation delays, and basically have this chain reaction. So this time, again, end of June, which is this week, and into early July, so this week and also next week, will be the sort of peak times where such difficult events may occur. But this general difficult period had already started mid-June, and will continue more or less through mid-July. But unfortunately, this week and early next week, especially throughout, say, 9th of July, will be perhaps the worst times. And other manifestations, again, specific types of disasters that I have already pointed out in the video that I made separately on this Mars-Uranus square. Some of the examples specifically involve things like things exploding, followed by massive fires, and things that involve structural damage. So if there's a flood, first, some structure like a dam or some wall or something breaks and then things are flooded, or like a fireworks disaster. And of course, in the US, we're coming on to the 4th of July holiday, where many people may be attending fireworks shows or even using fireworks or something in their backyard, which I think is illegal in most states, or every state, I'm not sure. But either way, I would definitely advise at this time to avoid anything that may explode. Again, even if you're just, playing with something where you think everything is safe, it's just kind of best to not take those risks. And again, increased probability of things exploding and starting fires, which at this time in many parts of the world, certainly in the US, there's a major heat wave going on, and obviously improper sort of handling of certain chemicals or certain fireworks, etc., may lead to fires quite easily, given again the drought, sort of the heat wave, etc. So definitely would caution against engaging in any risky activities, and especially when it concerns anything that can explode or start a fire. So let's see. So as I mentioned, probability of major accidents, turbulent weather, etc., as well as flash crashes in the stock market through, I would say especially July 9th, but more or less through the mid-July. And let's see, for cryptocurrencies, I haven't been specifically researching individual cryptocurrencies, but as a general, again, advice, because of Uranus being in Taurus, and Taurus has to do with finance, banks, currencies, and Uranus brings this element of anything that's digital, so cryptocurrencies, things that are exchanged via, internet or some digital means. Those definitely will be experiencing tensions, again, from both Mars and Uranus. And so I would not be expecting necessarily, as just a general sort of suggestion, those assets to be going up extremely highly at this particular time, meaning this weekend into early next week. In fact, I think if anything, they may fall. Certainly there may be bounce backs, where people kind of try to jump on this on the low and kind of buy things at their lower pace. But right now, again, the probability of things just being extra volatile is very high. So one that certainly should exercise extreme caution. Let's see. So for the period of from about June 30th to July 6th, in addition to these, like I said, the general period of circumstances where there may be accidents, like we unfortunately saw this catastrophic collapse in Florida, where a major 12-story building condominium fell, and obviously it's a huge disaster, and this is the timing, unfortunately, occurred right at this time, and that's basically one of the sort of types of manifestations that situations that occur under this aspect. But unfortunately it's going to be getting sort of stronger this weekend into next week. But in addition to this increased probability of structural damage kind of events, or power outages, turbulent weather, even airplane accidents, 30th of June through July 6th, we'll see also increased focus on things like oil, gas, like I said, maritime transportation, navy, ships, water pollution, navy, anything really that relates to Neptune and those kind of areas. Also music, movies, drugs, religion, all of those are Neptunian domains. And there too, there may be some stressful situations where perhaps there's, again, a ship is stuck. Maybe there's turbulent weather, and so the maritime transportation, becomes, there's some problems with it. Maybe there's fog, or there's excessive precipitation, or some strong waves, or something along those lines. And basically, the ship is delayed, or ships are delayed, or there's some problem with transporting oil or gas, where something either spills, or again, is just delayed, or because agreement hasn't been reached. Or again, something wasn't signed properly, there's some confusion. So those areas may basically experience some problems from, like I said, problems with travel and transportation to issues with signing deals because things are not clear, details are not available, reports are missing information. And generally speaking, this time, about of 7 days approximately, is also going to be not necessarily favorable, rather not favorable for reaching any sort of written maybe deals or contracts, because there's a greater than usual probability of things kind of not making it into or some important detail being omitted and not making it into the contract. And again, this could be just out of by mistake, an honest mistake, but unfortunately there's also a probability of deception or things just kind of not being presented as they are, or certain details missing. So if the contract perhaps is reached, certain things may be found later, and those may have some negative basically consequences, like specific details, like how much something costs, or how many locations does something need to occur in, or something like that. Like those details may be glanced over, but actually will turn out to be important later on. So if one must enter into some sort of a important written agreement at this time, like I said, 30th of June through early July 6th approximately, then at least definitely extreme care needs to be taken to review the contract details more thoroughly than maybe usually one would do. And in general, it may be, like I said, difficult time for transportation and travel, especially over like water, or if something is involved in shipping, like pharmaceuticals, chemicals, oil, etc. For the US, the period of July 2nd through 5th may also see increased focus on issues related to those same Neptunian domains. So oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, movies, entertainment industry, water pollution, but also things like sports, military, and especially Navy. And there may be news about some sort of agreement, in fact, being reached, or sale, or deal, or beginning of some new communication or transportation project. But the exact details, as I said, this time may be vague, or some things may be unclear. So perhaps it's just the beginning of negotiations and things are not quite agreed upon. Or if indeed there's an agreement or sale, again, some details may change later on. And there may be some uncertainty about where things are headed, and that uncertainty or confusion may bring, I think, or contribute to potentially down market moves, again, at the same time period, so from about the 2nd to 5th of July. For China, the period from 2nd to 11th of July also looks significant, and there too maybe the country may experience some difficult or tense time, increased news about military, also weapons, possibly sports, any sort of situations that involve competition or arguments with partners, may even have escalation of some conflicts to the point of even some military clashes. But at the same time, there could be, again, increased, spirit of competition in, say, sports, and some sports records may be broken. But on the negative side, again, increased probability of things like accidents, conflict escalations, fires, explosions, etc. And like I said, this could involve either like sports record being broken and just increase, sort of focus on competing and improving in those areas. But on the negative side, it could be escalation of some threats, increased number of accidents, militarized conflicts, negotiations kind of taking a turn, for the worse, with just kind of parties becoming a little bit more aggressive. Or if there's an agreement previously that was made previously, it may be broken at this time. And also there may be some problems related to transportation and communication, again, due to concerns about maybe safety of certain vehicles, like car safety vehicles, or something being recalled, or just some dangerous situations such as increased fires, and therefore obviously some travel is canceled due to that. Or it could be because, again, some deal is called off, some negotiation is called off, and again, this leads to some confusion or conflicts about whether or not something can be shipped, for example, or the shipment, whether a shipment can be, I guess, accepted. And like I said, this time period will continue, this tense energy will continue into early next week especially, but the worst days in terms of like increased probability of either some accidents or some problems or even down market days would be Thursday, Friday of this week. And again, next week will be Monday, Tuesday, but it will continue certainly to be experienced strongly through at least the 9th of July and kind of starting to slightly dissipate, but I wouldn't like be counting on it until after July 15th. Let's see. So now let's talk about maybe glance ahead at just the next few months. Just a few points here to note. In terms of the gold and silver, I think gold and silver may go up on the 18th and or 19th of July. And let's see, and I think also in August, around 9th of August, there may be an up sort of tick in the golden value, gold and silver value. And also I think overall this year, there's a stronger probability than usual for gold and silver to go up through about 15th of December. And after that, I would be expecting the reversal in the trend of gold and silver. So I don't know exactly how much, sort of a momentum there is, but I think the slow upward momentum will continue through about, like I said, 15th of December with some intermediate highs, which I expect to be around July 18, 19, and then August 9th. But like I said, this will continue more or less through mid-December, and at that time, including also the time around the August 9th, there may also be news, relevant news about either US value of the US dollar or about some financial policies out of the US. And so the announcements about US financial policy changes or updates or US dollar values news may specifically contribute to the upward momentum in the gold and or silver globally. Let's see, for the stock market, I think the end of July, so about 27th through 30th, actually look positive, where there may be some potentially a rally at that time, especially July 28th and 29. Either way, there probably will be increased volatility in the stock market at that time, where investors may feel extremely excited and optimistic about something and may go overboard, like scooping things up again. I'm not sure what the excitement might exactly be about, but it could be related to some legal changes, perhaps some announcements about immigration or some major lawsuits either being completed, or some changes in the laws or changes in international relations or some arrangements involving import-export. So something along those lines. Unfortunately, at the same time, so end of July, there may also be some disruptions in international or long-distance transportation and communication. And this could be due to, say, excessive winds, or, obviously some regulations like international travel regulations, but also could be just weather events like excessive winds, maybe even volcanic eruptions, throwing like ashes in the air, something along the lines of like air, basically, either again, strong winds, polluted air, something that affects temporarily travel and transportation internationally at the end of July. And then very end of August, so maybe August 30th through approximately September 3rd is another important time period where we will see potentially a strong down market move, and that especially will be around the 3rd of September. And also at the same time, there will be increased focus on things like oil, gas, again, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, etc., again, Neptunian domains. And there may be some news that are sort of disruptive for those areas. So again, could be from an accident involving an oil spill to price of value of oil either dropping, or there being a shortage of oil, or some conflict related to oil, like oil transportation, or conflict among countries that are involved in, say, transporting or producing oil, etc. So something related to, oil, gas, and also at the same time a market drop right around late August, early September, especially around September the 3rd. So now let's take a quick look at the next couple of years and sort of like a little bit more extended overview. And so next year, I guess it's starting January through approximately May, and especially early April, around April 4th, I expect there to be both increased in the value of oil and gas, but also increased precipitation, perhaps resulting in major like snowstorms, floods, etc. And especially around, like I said, plus minus few days, April 4th, there may be a really large kind of event, either major oil spill or major floods or earthquake, but with tsunami, something along the lines of like basically difficulties with maybe contamination. There's like breach of some dam or breach of some pool with contaminated water, but some really big problem. Or again, could be just really massive storm that brings a lot of water in a very short period of time. At the same time, either related to this, because obviously when you have floods, it can bring contaminated water, and at the same time, so it could be, there may be an uptick in some infectious diseases, again, like say cholera or something. It could be just related to water pollution, but also it could be independently spreading like a flu or some other kind of infectious disease where again it spreads via like part of water, droplets, etc. Or something that grows in the moist places or spreads via like damp surfaces, etc. Let's see. And that's for basically this, coming winter, January 2022 through around May of 2022, but especially early April. And then in around August 1st of 2022 is going to be another kind of difficult time period, again, plus minus a few days, where there's a great probability of some major accident that affects a lot of people, or like a major bad weather event or industrial disaster. And that might involve like an airplane or something that's flying, like, rockets, drones, or flying as in like there's a hurricane, obviously August 1st, I guess, or hurricane season, and also power outages, some explosions, either explosion of battery or explosion maybe of a transformer leading to a power outage, but that's around August 1st. So again, some excessive winds or something that's flying, again, could be an airplane experiencing some problems with the battery, for example, or it could be a hurricane affecting obviously, flights and causing perhaps power outages, something like that. That's around August 1st of 2022. And then also for China next, similarly spring and summer, and especially July, August, may see excessive precipitation, and there's an increased probability of significant flooding, as well as some major accidents that may lead to financial losses, again, could be due to floods. Then for the US, the period of 2022-2023, as I mentioned before, is going to be a difficult period, or not necessarily difficult, rather important period, where it will experience a couple major sort of transits to its natal chart, one being Pluto return, where it coincides with just kind of revamping things like constitution. I'm not saying it will be rewritten, but just things that were like pillars, I guess, of how the country sort of functions, like who's in the government, who is sort of in charge, how things are governed, like basically just the structure of the government, how things kind of relate to each other, how sort of, I guess, the regulations are made. Those things may undergo some major changes because, again, Pluto is definitely a planet that brings with it like really drastic changes, where some, one period just completely ends and new, rebirth period begins. And it happens to be in Capricorn, which has to do with things like large corporations, governments, people or structures or companies that are at the top. Capricorn is a sign of, mountains, etc. So things that are really solid, really like sort of looked up sort of business, also large businesses. Those things may undergo some changes. There could be changes in the regulations of large businesses, but more than one situation may be involved. And Pluto, again, is a planet that rules things also like mining and anything that's underground. So anything that's either underground physically, like maybe, again, mining industry, or excavation of something, or hidden sort of underground, because again, it's hidden. Or also Pluto rules things like nuclear power. So things that are seen as, related to large businesses or controlled by government or regulated by government. There may be some major changes and some restructuring, reorganization in those areas. And again, it could also involve like mining, metals, steel, nuclear power, and anything that, involves like digging, etc. And of course, it may involve also like scandals involving like officials or important corporate officers as well. Again, just because if something is ending, things may not necessarily, they may not be leaving on some good terms. Things may involve a scandal, somebody leaves, but then the new, process begins. That is a lot sort of nicer and refreshed. So I'm not saying everything's going to be negative, but definitely some major changes that may be seen as somewhat drastic, or some also long, that will last a long time, because Pluto orbits, takes a long time to orbit Sun. And another thing that will be happening in the US chart, also 22-23, is Neptune is going to be getting into its fourth house, which has to do with things like banks' savings, real estate, banks' assets, but also farmlands, farming. And Neptune obviously is, associated with things like water, floods, etc. So there's a possibility of things being quote unquote underwater, whether it's physically, maybe increased floods. As I mentioned, 22, spring especially may bring major flooding, and or it will be underwater because of some problems, with like mortgages, etc. That's obviously will be seen, but definitely some confusion about real estate, some confusion about like borders and territories, and borders not necessarily of the country, but borders even within the states, within various municipalities. The borders, confusion could be because literally the soil is washed away because of some floods, and suddenly, the border has to be moved because literally something was washed away. Or it could be due to some confusion, because Neptune also has to do with things like they're in a fog, they're confusing. It's difficult to see clearly what's happening. Maybe obviously there's probability for things to kind of be hidden, obscured, or even people to take advantage, people, unethical people, to maybe sell some, more real estate that's not really holding its value, etc. And then people will be, with their mortgage underwater and things like that. So that's another kind of area where, unfortunately, there may be some, again, at least confusion. And so those will be occurring at the same time for the US, and again, 2022, 2023. So that may be a time where there may be more just significant events that will ultimately kind of lead to some renewal of certain like maybe laws or regulations to improve things, because obviously having some confusion or having difficulties that cannot go for a long time. So whatever the situations will be, again, after that period of perhaps some turmoil, some tensions, things will clear up. And so moving after that into approximately, I'd say starting as early as middle of 2024, but especially into 2025 and then early 2026, we will have some major transits happening. And so then basically what we will have is Neptune will be moving from its sign that it rules, Pisces, into Aries, which is not a very friendly sign for it, and it will also be conjuncting Saturn at the same time. So things to note there will be, one, that the conjunction and in general difficult transits between Saturn and Neptune often lead to major changes in the value of oil, and so I think there will be a major reversal in the price of like oil and anything that's sort of derived, some petroleum products or any chemicals, or also gas and any other Neptunian areas, like say movies or something like that, audiovisual equipment. So those areas, there may be either some problems or some lack of something, embargoes, and the price maybe will reach top, but then will reverse, and that's about 2025 where we may see it. And approximately, I'd say even around February 1st of 2025, maybe like the ultimate sort of top for this long-term trajectory for the oil prices. It could obviously also be a bottom, but one way or the other, around February of 2025, I think there will be some major reversal in oil and gas, etc. prices. Let's see. And at the same time, this conjunction of Saturn and Neptune also, unfortunately, had in the past coincided with difficult events for the oil industry, such as like major oil spills. For example, the Exxon Valdez oil spill also occurred under the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. That's because Saturn rules things like losses, basically, and difficulties of various kinds. So that's kind of another thing to look for. However, at this time, I'm not sure if it will be necessarily a spill, given that Neptune is actually entering Aries, and Aries is a fire sign, ruled by Mars, god of war, like athletes, etc. There may actually be, I think, droughts at that time and or problems with accessibility of clean water. So definitely increased focus on, things related to like water resource management. And at the same time, we will also have, shortly after, I guess around the same time, we will have other planets, Uranus and Pluto also entering air signs. So Uranus will be entering shortly after into Gemini, and Pluto into into Aquarius. So with kind of more intense focus switching, from like this supportive kind of sort of energy of water, or even maybe Earth, for Neptunian sort of matters, we will be getting much more focus on like air and fire, which I think may coincide with major droughts, and while through about, let's say, 2032. And so droughts, and obviously there may be also increased number of like wind, sand storms, or dust storms and things of that nature, and or if not droughts, I think droughts most likely, but at the very minimum, there may be concerns, especially in 25, 26, but again, during the drought as well, about just availability of water in general, and certainly clean water. And at the same time, right around, like I said, 25 through about 32, there may be some major changes, some innovations perhaps in the science, or changes just because of, again, concerns about water availability or oil polluting perhaps something like a body of water. Where there may be some major scientific innovations, and that's supported by this trine of Uranus and Pluto in Gemini to Aquarius, which support like intellectual activity and technology advancements, etc. So I think there will be indeed, from about 25 to 32, there may be indeed various major advancements. However, they may specifically involve oil, water, where they may be addressing a problem. So they may be addressing a need to maybe clean polluted body of water, or to ensure that there is availability of clean water, so maybe recycling of water, or resource management, or perhaps desalination, or whatever it may be. That yes, there will be some increased, some technological advancements, but they may specifically be involving, again, oil or water or chemicals. So it could be something, from just having to address perhaps situation that may be associated, or triggered by, say, drought or water pollution, and having to fix certain issues. So if there's drought, how to obtain clean water, or if there are problems with oil because maybe there is some too many disasters or too much fighting over oil, and or price of oil is too high, and so there's maybe a much stronger pivot towards alternative sources of fuel. And indeed, they may involve things that have to do with like some other kind of chemical reactions, maybe even using literally like hydrogen, fuel or anything like that. So things that again might specifically involve biology, medical science, chemicals, literally water, or even oil, but used in a different way than before, but perhaps more efficiently, deriving energy more efficiently, or used for a different purpose somehow. At the same time, aside from, needing to be addressing issues, say because of droughts, for example, or also it could be due to maybe some disasters like oil spill or some other chemical, spill, or things that are affecting environment and having to, invent things to clean things up. There may also be increased advancements in other areas that are related just to Gemini and Aquarius. So this could be something along the lines of like flying or flying objects, or flying, cars, vehicles, transportation via air, using the power of wind, power of air somehow to generate electricity. Also some really cool cars, self-driving cars, delivering things through air, anything drones. So anything to do with like IT, AI, cars, transportation, again, mostly like by air, because the air signs will be triggered, will be definitely computing. All of that will definitely see really major advancements. And again, 25 to 32 approximately will be really big sort of peak time for that. At the same time, again, there may be some focus with that on chemicals, biology, water, again, either using literally water to drive energy, or using innovations to clean water, for example, or to ensure there is enough water, but also things along the lines of like biological computing, like using cells basically to be your little computers, or using power of chemical reactions to, again, conduct some computations, or using, various chemicals or biology or medicine in different way, so perhaps to enhance one's health through technological advancements. And there's definitely, with Neptune being in Aries, definitely a huge potential for really major advancements in medicine that specifically affect treatment of areas that are related to Aries, which would be one head, of course, anything in the head. So like, and of course, Neptune rules things like vision and also senses, so especially vision. So enhancing it, and again, this could be due to perhaps there first being some problem, maybe even some war or something, or some pandemic, where it specifically affects, like I said, the head or brain or face or eyes or something like that, and that then necessitates development of some sort of technologies or some solutions, medical treatments to address that, and or it could be just in for just the sake of, say, sports, or even for military enhancements. There definitely can be something, again, related, some sort of relationship between like medical, biology, but also technical advancements. And again, this could be either to address a problem, or it could be to enhance things for the sake of, say, again, competition, or even military advancements of some sort. But other things that are related to Aries, again, could be related specifically to treat wounds that are obtained through, like, say, sports injuries, or wounds that are obtained in like military or some fighting, basically. So it could be cuts, obviously not bones breaking necessarily, but like head trauma, or maybe burns, and treatment of those kind of wounds may also be advanced. And also Neptune has to do with things like, again, use of chemicals like anesthesia, or use of imagery, use of virtualization of anything. So again, it could be, say, using a technology to help people who are blind, to see, even that they're blind already. Such technologies, I think, have been developed and exist, but there may be, major breakthroughs that make that a lot better. Or to, treat soldiers that maybe had some
trauma to their like head, brain, eyes, etc. And suddenly with technology, they're really able to completely, overcome that, and things can be developed a lot faster, because Aries also is the sign where make things develop very fast. So if there is even a problem with, say, some pandemic or something at this time when Neptune is in Aries, the solutions to those issues may also be developed a lot faster, and anything that enhances, again, audio-visual sort of perception or ability to create music, custom videos, that technology may become available and a lot more accessible. So literally almost anyone can create, custom music, like I said, videos, etc., or exchange that, or make it, again, use it much more, I guess, easily than before. And let's see. So I mentioned that. So and then after about 2032, like I said, from about 2025 through 2032, there may be, unfortunately, concerns about like water availability, droughts, excessive heat, or even water pollution. So maybe water is not necessarily, evaporated, but rather there is, just the water is not, as potable. However, after this period, from about 32 to 35, we're going to see another period where we will have Saturn moving into Capricorn, and typically in the Capricorn, Cancer. And at that time, we will most likely experience things like problems, or at least reorganization of areas related to agriculture, farming, like livestock management. And again, this could be due to, say, drought conditions, and now things just need to be done differently to ensure that there are crops and they're healthy, etc. Or it could be just, again, problems with growing food, again, due to droughts, and again, things just have to be kind of managed a little bit better. Maybe food is scarce, not necessarily food is scarce, but rather things just need to be done completely differently to, again, address potentially years of, again, either droughts or problems with water availability. At the same time, there could be innovations made at the time on the sort of industrial level to specifically manage the entire chain of food production, from growing it to making it available to customers, literally like in cooked form, because we will also have at the same time focus on I think Uranus will also going to be getting into the Cancer at the same time, and so we will have also this focus on major developments related to like smart homes, various technologies, from like building homes in the way that are completely wired and connected to everything. So again, obviously, if a person their fridge is out of stock, and immediately there will be some signal and things just will basically show up, like the whole like management of food, again, how things are grown, from how things are grown into to how things are literally produced, cooked, maybe how restaurants are run, whether or not even there's even a human preparing food. All of that may be completely automated, and the process will be run through different sort of logistics than before. And that's the entire process, this automation of, again, food production, but also somehow tying it into, like I said, smart homes and this connectivity about what basically happens at home, or people's needs literally for shelter and food, becoming kind of addressed more sort of in a much more automated, quicker, more technologically advanced manner, maybe even the person can have a machine and they can grow their own food in some new innovative way, literally at home, and it's served to them at home, and some machine kind of takes care of most of the steps in the process. Something really different about how things are grown and how things are delivered, again, for sustenance. And that's from 32 to 35. So that's about it, I guess, for sort of this long-term overview, and I think there are definitely some exciting new advancements ahead of us. I'm sure I didn't cover all of the possible different variations of it. I just wanted to give a little preview of what potentially lies ahead, but certainly interesting. Will be interesting to see how things turn out. So I hope you had found this interesting and useful, and definitely stay safe this week and next week especially. Don't do anything risky, I would say, and have a fantastic week, everyone. I'll catch you guys later.